14, I think, when on board the ship. Travelled around Europe in my school holidays. Much more interesting than school. School is highly overrated. Actually, no, nobody ever said that. I'm just kidding. Anyway, years later, I discovered that other people went on what they call normal holidays. You know, I've never done that, and they went to the same place every year. That just sounds horrible, going to the same place every year. I can't think of anything worse. I mean, I've seen it in films, like these sort of family films, you know, from American film studios, and I thought that was just something that only happened in films. Anyway, ships like this are not really luxurious, but it does beat camping. Like, you get your own cabin, which is great. So when I was at university, this opportunity came up to spend a year in another country. I chose France because it's sunny there. And I spent a year aboard of it because that seemed like a good idea. It was a good idea. It was great. And like many students, I just had this sort of great sense of entitlement. So it seemed completely natural that I would get EU funding to spend a year on what was basically a holiday in France, skip all of my classes. I mean, I was supposed to be studying mathematics. And that's not really interesting in France because it's just the same, because it's just symbols still. And I thought it would be more interesting to learn to speak French. So I did that instead. In other words, I went to as many bars as possible and went out to lot and met people. You know, got sociable and it worked, you know, learned to speak French. That was kind of cool. It does rain a lot in Bordeaux though. I mean, they didn't tell me that before I went. It's a really wet part of France, so, you know. And I got it all wrong because it's a wet part of France because it's in the west. And I was a university student in Bristol, also in the west of England. They're actually twin cities, so actually it's not a coincidence that I went to Bordeaux from Bristol, because there's a link. And it's west of Bristol too, a lot of rain. You know, it doesn't rain so much where I'm from, you know, near London. London's really dry, like London's dry in here, in here. I live in Rotterdam now, where it rains, because it's in the west of the country. Anyway, this isn't a talk about the weather, it's just, it's something that English people do. They talk about the weather, they don't mean to, it just happens. Anyway, getting to the point of the talk is that this sort of idea of, you know, going places, you know, with other people as part of something else just seemed quite normal. So when I'm nearing the end of my university degree, it's time to start thinking about getting a proper job, because I thought that's what I had to do. I was actually on the lookout for free food and free alcohol, because I was a student, right? So that's what we were doing at university. And so in the final year, companies go to universities and they rent rooms in fancy hotels like this one, or specifically this one. And so I went to an event, a bit like this, with presentations and free beer, in this hotel at the end of my final year. And then there's this company who paid for the beer. And it was interesting, and they talked about international travel. And I thought that sounded really cool. So I ended up working for this sort of big company. So I graduated, sort of single, bilingual, got a job as a consultant, working for the company that gave me free beer there. And then I spent the next 5 years not paying for things. And that's not the subject of my talk. It seemed quite a reasonable thing to do. It was actually lots of fun. So I spent 5 years after I graduated discovering various countries and various things I could do with OPM. OPM is important. OPM is other people's money. I've been sitting in this office in London for 3 weeks, I think, not really doing anything, because I basically had no skills. I was just a graduate. But HR phone, and they say, do you want to go to Paris on Wednesday? It's a trick question. How long for? 5 weeks. I'm still looking for it. No. So I went. So this is me in Paris, a long time ago, on the metro station, Metro Felix 4, which is, you know, sort of where I live in Paris for half a year. Because I went for 5 weeks, but you know, you go for 5 weeks and it's like, stay a bit longer. So what did I do in Paris? I ate in a lot of restaurants, because I'm staying in this hotel for 5 weeks, and I've got an expense account. And it just seemed completely natural. I felt some kind of obligation to eat in a different restaurant every night in Paris, because you would, if you've got a budget, and you can't cook because you live in a hotel. It turns out, living in a hotel is fantastic. It's underrated. I remember my mum was a teenager. When I was a teenager, she'd say to me, "You treat this place like a hotel." You know, you turn up late at night and you just kind of throw your clothes on the floor. And in a hotel you can do that. And then they sort of reset it every day and it's all neat and tidy. And the laundry service puts your shirts neatly in a box. I was sort of happy because I've gone from lazy student to sort of lazy professional, but then with like iron shirts. So, and then the restaurant thing. mean, I hadn't really afforded to eat in restaurants a lot as a student. And then if you eat in a different restaurant in Paris every night, you sort of really open my eyes. Like, wow. I mean, I like food a little bit too much, but that's another story. So on my first month, my expense claim, just for the restaurants, was more than my salary. And I thought, that's quite a good deal, really. I should do that again. So now when Paris ended, I had to sort of go somewhere else. So am I going to go and work in some office in London? Well, next, I went here. This is not London. So this is Cologne. I went to Cologne for a few weeks in Germany. I went to Manchester on some training course, and then they sent us here. There's some customer with some industry. Because I wanted to do the same thing again. I wanted to live in a hotel again. So I lived in a hotel for 3 weeks in Cologne. And Paris had given me this taste for exploring the cities. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do the restaurant thing again. I'm going to do the hotel thing again. But this time I'm going to really explore the city, get to know it. Because I've got to know how Australia works. I thought that would be kind of useful. So I stayed in Cologne. Now in Cologne I needed to think of something new to do. So they all thought I had to fly back home at weekends. Now I was a bit unsure about home because where I'm from is a really very interesting place in the south of England. So I didn't really want to go there for a weekend. It's like, why would I fly there for a weekend? I'm already on holiday here, where it's sunny and they have like a really nice beer. So I asked my manager, can I stay for the weekends? He said, well, how much does a hotel cost? How much does the flight home cost? Oh, cheaper. Bargain. So I stayed for the weekend. So that's one new thing in Cologne. Like, oh, I can just sort of stay there. So all good projects come to an end, and it's time to move on to the next place. So I'm getting into the swing of things here. I'm thinking, okay, I've got to kind of choose carefully now. I've got to have all of the same stuff as I've got. I've got to have the restaurants, I've got to have a hotel, but I've got to have something new. So each place, I had to come up with something new that other people's money could pay for. So the next place ended up being this place. Now this is Cambridge in England. This is the driest place in England. It's probably the driest place in Europe. It rains less than once a month there. It's weird. It's also really pretty. It's a gorgeous place to live. Quite expensive. Lots of people want to live there. Well, I worked out that if I worked on a certain project, I'm away from home officially, so they'll pay for my flat. So I lived here rent-free for a year. This was great because I'm no longer renting a flat anymore in London, so I'm just living rent-free. And when I wasn't really earning otherwise, but the student loans had gone. By the end of this year, they went. I had to commit to 12 months in one place. That was very scary. I had to really think about that. The idea I would just sort of carry on working in this one town. But living rent-free was the next milestone. I mean, honestly, I spent the first month in Cambridge while I was looking for a flat, living in a hotel, eating in restaurants, spending the expenses, exploring the city. So all of those things go without saying at this point. I had to add something new. Okay, so by the end of this year, I'm totally used to not paying rent. The idea that I would have to go back to London and rent a flat was shocking. Don't ever rent a flat in London, people. You're not that rich. It's insanely expensive. You might think that, well, you could maybe live a bit further from the centre and travel in, or maybe you could share a flat with some other people, or maybe you could just have some scummy sort of flat with dirty bathroom that smells. All of the above, people. You're going to have all of the above. It's going to be too expensive, not in London, you're sharing with 5 people who are weird, and the bathroom smells. So don't live in London. Nothing good will come of it. Don't do that. So what I did instead was I found myself a project somewhere else. Now there's this thing in Luxembourg. Obviously never been to Luxembourg. Who's been to Luxembourg? I mean, it's not... Okay, why? Cheap petrol and cheap cigarettes on the way somewhere else. But when I say did you go to Luxembourg, keep your hand up if you went there and stayed there. You didn't just drive, keep going. You see, okay, 3 of you. Yeah. Most people go to Luxembourg and they just kind of keep going. But Luxembourg is also really pretty. It's sort of like Cambridge, but they speak French. The thing was that there's this project opportunity in Luxembourg, and they want me to decide in like 2 hours if I'm going to go there for 6 months. Now that's a bit scary because I know nothing about the place, and the internet hadn't properly been invented at this point, so I couldn't really surf the web or anything. Okay, I mean there was the web, but it just wasn't good. I think this was back when all web pages had great backgrounds. That's a whole other story. I phoned the Luxembourgish embassy in London and I said, I'm going to be working in this place called Betzdorf. This is the train station where I was going to work. So they told me it's not a place, there's 10 houses. I mean, what are you doing? But it's very easy to get there from the city. So I got a flat that I didn't pay the rent on in the city, just sort of 100 metres from this place, a very pretty kind of place. Then every morning I get on the train, I go here, and then kind of walk down the little lane up the hill to where I was working. And it was all good. Now, bear in mind that I started off in a hotel, done that, I explored the city, done that before, and there's restaurants, and I'm not paying the rent, so all of this I've done before. What am I going to do new? Like, what am I going to get them to pay for this time? At this point, I've started doing things like reading the staff handbook, like the company staff handbook, and I find things. I find a rule that says that if you're working in another country on an assignment for an extended period, they will pay for language lessons. Now, the most useful language to speak in Luxembourg is French, but I've sort of done that. And besides, French people aren't very impressed if you speak French. Really, I mean, it's disappointing given how hard it is to do. And I just didn't really feel like trying German, which is also handy in Luxembourg. So the obvious thing to do was I took a course in Luxembourgish, which the company paid for, and it was great fun. And it turned out to be fantastically valuable, because Luxembourgish people are really impressed if you say hello, how are you in Luxembourgish. That's good value. If you're a native English speaker, you're not doing it to kind of communicate with people, because they sort of probably speak better English anyway. But you can impress them if they're Luxembourgish. I mean, not if they're French, they just say they're not. Great 6 months in Luxembourg. Unfortunately, the city's a bit sort of small and I got quite bored in the end and had to escape. But it's a pretty place, nice place. Maybe go back there when I'm really old, when I don't want to do anything. So, somewhere else. Anybody? No. This is the United Nations complex in Vienna. Lots of offices. I mean, this place is massive. And this was a really good fun place to go and work. I only spent 3 or 4 weeks there. But yeah, 3 or 4 weeks living in a hotel, new city. I think I've been to Austria on a school trip once, but yeah, didn't really know it. And so a few weeks in Vienna, this was kind of fun. Now, here I kind of didn't have to go looking for my new thing that other people were paying for. Well, it's obviously the other stuff. I'm going to stop mentioning it. Right, you get it now. The hotels check, you know, the restaurants, the other stuff. The canteen at this place is fantastic. I mean, I like variety. I like international variety. I mean, you got that. I like going to different places. They cater for everyone. They've just got everything. I mean, the canteen is massive. Like, you know, the shell office in Rieside has nothing on these people. They cater for 100 countries. How cool is that? I mean, I wasn't there for enough days to try everything. It was just insane. But this was probably the best canteen lunch that I've ever had the pleasure of having my customer pay for. And so, you know, years later when I'm in this country and I get a cheese sandwich and a glass of milk, I'm sorry, but I'm not impressed. After this, I had to go back to London for a few weeks while I was trying to work out my next thing. But fortunately, I didn't really have to kind of rent a flat. I remember going to visit a project manager in the office, you know, who I was probably looking for some cushy assignment somewhere, I can't remember. And obviously, I got there just before lunchtime, and he said, well, we're all going out for lunch, like the whole team, 10 people or something. We all go to some pub like this one. I mean, not this one, this is just some random photo from one meeting. But this is what people do at lunchtime. So this is like English people having lunch, you know, from their offices. A lot of them are wearing suits. And lunch is kind of maybe 2, or the second one's dessert or something. You know, somebody on the team is designated beer purchaser for the day and is made to buy me beer, even though I'm some stranger who's just turned up to answer the question. But I was going to mention a beer for lunch. I wasn't used to that anymore because I'd been living overseas. But this was a tricky moment. This was when I realised that I couldn't really live in England anymore. Didn't fit in. You know, I was that guy I'd say, yeah, but in other countries. I mean, those people, they live on an island or something. They've never been anywhere. It's awful. No idea. They don't want to go to other countries, right? So I'm working with some other project team just outside London, and you know I'm sort of living out of a suitcase, I suppose. I might have even had to stay with my mum for a couple of weeks, which I'm not going there. And one day, somebody, you know, it's Friday lunchtime, and somebody says to me, "Have you got your passport with you?" Just like that. I said, "Well, actually I do." I've got my ear with me. Yeah, we were doing sort of a team outing, sort of jolly, super to Paris for the weekend. Do you want to come? Got a spare place. Okay, so bonus weekend in Paris. I think I was just lucky. I don't think that was normal. But I did, I was getting my sort of tastes of my free stuff, so my free day for lunch, my free trip to Paris. And I need the next thing, I need the next assignment. Now it's starting to get really hard, right? Because I've sort of ticked lots of things, and I'm looking for the next thing. So I ended up here, here in Rotterdam. It's actually quite an old photo from 2000. So I moved to Rotterdam 15 years ago. So all of that stuff happened up until about 2000. And I'm still working for the same big company at this point. And I come to Rotterdam and I try the hotels and the restaurants and the language courses. Marginally more useful than Luxembourgish, and actually quite good value. You say learn Dutch, people don't expect that if you've got an English accent, so that's quite good. But I found new stuff, right? So there's always have to be new stuff. Now my new thing that I found in Rotterdam was conferences. I could get them to send me on conferences. Now conferences are fantastic, because a conference is like all of those things I've learned to value other people paying for in one go. It's like condensed into 3 or 4 days. And you live in a hotel for a few days, you sort of eat out, you meet loads of people. Fantastic. Nothing like Europe. I do it all the time if I could. Coincidentally, in a couple of weeks I'm presenting at a conference in England. Can't be. Anyway, I've got more free stuff. They gave me free books, a company laptop. And so I'm sort of gradually finding new things, But also, I'm starting to have problems. I'm starting to feel a little bit guilty. So I think, what can I do about this? I did some small things that made me feel better. Like I published all these restaurant reviews for Rotterdam because I've been to them all and I haven't paid. The least I could do was something like share my knowledge, because I knew things. It always used to be a point of pride that I'd just been able to order cafes in Rotterdam. I don't anymore because TripAdvisor was invented and I don't have to. But before then, I did that. It turned out to be useful to not learn whole languages because that's too much effort. But just learning to say hello was kind of fun. So I'll always. This is one of my web pages. If you scroll down, it's got this kind of table and it tells you how to order beer in all of these languages. And so it's tricky to remember how to pronounce them all though, especially the ones that have sort of odd alphabets. But actually the hardest one is the Irish. Bonus points if you can do that. I resist the temptation to cheat on my expenses. I actually started to earn some money at this point, and so I buy dinner for my friends, and I felt a little bit guilty. Not like all of the, not all of the meals that I got for free, but take my friends out for dinner sometimes, and I felt a bit bad about myself, rather than shallow. Although what was a bit more proper was using the cocktail making knowledge I'd acquired in Luxembourg to throw cocktail parties in Rotterdam. So this is my first flat in Rotterdam. Fortunately, to protect the guilty, the photo's a bit blurred, although one of the people in this photo is in the room this evening, I think. Probably very drunk at the time. I haven't got time to tell you why I learned to make cocktails in Luxembourg, but it's completely obvious in you, and I'll tell you later at the barbecue. Anyway. At this point, there comes a point when I've been in Rotterdam for 5 years, and I've done it all, I've done it all on other people's money. And I've learned to rationalise it. I've learned, I'm not stealing from anybody, I'm not, taking them for a ride. It's money they need to spend anyway, it's just a bonus. I'm just getting something out of the bonus activity, the travel, the food, the hotels. So I've got to take it to the next level. I was inspired to take it to the next level. At a certain point, I realised I'd settled down in Rotterdam, that I should get a new job. So I thought I'd go and work for a small company in Rotterdam, which I did. And I'm in a job interview. And there comes this point in the job interview where you suspect that you've just had the easy questions up until now. You're in the second hour, and there's this sort of really, you're getting a bit relaxed, but you're still a little bit on your guard because you think they're going to come up with a hard question soon. So when the guy across the table says, "Would you like a beer?" you know it's a test. You don't really know what the test is, but you know it's a test. It turned out, I only discovered much later when I started hiring people at the same company that that was not the test. The real test was, do you want another beer? Because the first one's just being polite, but if you have the second one, you mean it. Like, and if you don't accept the first one, that's intelligent, then you're not having drinks. Well, it's not beer. So I thought, beer in a job interview? Yeah. Okay, I need to think bigger. I need to take it to the next level. So the next level, the gold standard for other people's money is the free lunch. Now, there is no such thing as a free lunch, but business lunch does come close. You go to a meeting in a cafe, and you get free lunch when you work. When I say work, well, I'll do the thing with the inverted commas, but you know what I mean. And my new boss, who kind of wrote this blog post, he was the master of this, the business lunch. So I did a lot of that over the years. And I realised I've been to all these events. I mentioned the conferences, but I should sort of get more involved, right? Because you have to pay to go, and you have to pay for your beer, unless you're the presenter, and then you get free beer. How cool is that? Right? So if you're presenting another thing, they pay for your flight there, maybe in the hotel, and crucially, you get free beer. And sometimes you get special speakers for hang out with the speakers. And so this is good as well. You get to sort of educate people, or not educate them, but at least entertain them a little bit. But that's just as good. So I got into doing that. Now, I want to go back to the free beer thing. Okay, getting free beer has just become too easy. So I have to take it to the next level. Taking it to the next level is getting free beer for all of your friends as well. This is the time that our company hired Paddy Murphy's pub, sports bar in Rotterdam, for an evening event, and we got the company to sponsor the beer, and we just had presentations, which is what they were looking at, and free beer. All my friends and my colleagues. This was great. So we did lots more of that. We started a meetup group, which was sort of designed to, so we could sort of get out and socialise, meet people in Rotterdam, and have free beer, sponsored by companies. So we were quite open about it. We would say to this company, if you pay for everybody's beer, it would cost 500 euro, and everybody would be really happy and they'll have all feelings about your company. We'll tell them that you sponsor the event, plus we'll all have free beer. So that was good. The blogging thing, the restaurant reviews, I started before blogging was invented, but at a certain point it's called blogging, and you write things, you put them on a webpage. This turned out to be a gateway drug to more writing. Eventually I wrote a book, which is one of those sort of technical books for, a certain kind of nerd. But this was good because it takes a lot of effort, but you do get some freebies. People would buy me beer if they just heard of the book. We meet at some events like, oh, you write a book, free beer. It's cool. I get loads of free books from the publisher. Not that I'm going to read them, but it's the principle of the thing. I just get loads of free books. Books are nice, right? So, and through the course of this, I've ended up getting to the point in my career where I can also pay for my own restaurants and flights and hotels and my own shows. So I'm not completely dependent on getting these things on other people's money. So that's sort of working out well as well. Getting close to the end of this, one of the more recent things, and this is now we've caught up to a few months ago, I got an invitation to go to Dublin for a few days to Web Summit, which was kind of cool. You meet cool people there, it turns out. I spent 3 days in Dublin without spending a single cent. I didn't mean to spend nothing. But a friend of mine, who's got a startup, had said, do you want to come and help me at Web Summit? I've got a free ticket. And I said, no, I'm kind of busy, but I'll go if you pay for the flight. So he paid for the flight and the hotel. I did actually do quite a good hard day's work, on one of the booths at the thing. And Google paid for the free dinner that evening at their HQ. And I just kind of failed to pay for anything. But which was great, actually. I really liked it. I'm trying to be casual about it, but it was lots of fun. And then I met these people from here who said, oh, you should come to Nomad. That's when we were hanging out at the Google HQ. I was just too tired to do anything. I was telling stories. And then the sort of final one, 2 weeks ago, my partner for work was going to present at some conference in Istanbul, and so I got to kind of go along. I've not stayed in one of these before. People always joke, oh, do you always stay at the Hilton because that's my name? But no, they're Americans, and those American people. And it's this overpriced, horrible American hotel. Although actually, it's not bad if someone else is paying. I mean, they're too expensive, so someone else is paying, that's okay. I'm okay with that. And it was cool. I mean, Istanbul is a fantastic city, so this was kind of a good deal. So this was a new thing. This was, not even being my work. This is not my partner's work. It's paying for 3 hotel nights for me. Cool. So that's sort of some of the stories, right? Some of the stuff I got for free. Now, I wasn't going to have a kind of conclusion, but I'm always, what you say at the end of a presentation. And I realised that actually there is a conclusion, which is a bit boring, so I'm going to try and make it short. But I think I did a lot of this stuff for the wrong reasons. Well, no, all for the right reasons, but just to have a lot of fun. And I had a lot of fun. It was all really good. But it turned out, because I've always been a bit of a nerd, and I hide it sometimes, sometimes better than others, but in my job, I've just got a nerd job. But doing all of this stuff, the things in other people's money, all those things that are on expense accounts, those are all things that involve going out in the world and talking to people and going places and traveling and doing consultancy and stuff. And it was quite scary at first, but in the end, I got to the point where I could do this sort of fearless consultancy where you just turn up in an unknown country for a couple of days and do stuff with a customer and deal with that. I used to be really, really scared of public speaking like normal people are, but until I did lots of that, because hanging out at the events led to talking at the events, and then I did this a lot. It's not the first time I've done this. And then the travel and the restaurants led to the blogging, which led to a lot of writing. It turns out that writing is quite a useful skill and profession. And so it turns out that all of this stuff that I was just doing because it was like other people's money actually was really important in being a successful professional. Who knew? Because nerds don't get sent on training courses to learn how to do this stuff, which is a bit of a shame, really, because you can learn all of these things. The public speaking, the confidence, the consultancy type things, the customer contact. And I got it all for free. Well, not free, other people's money. Yeah, how good is that? Anyway, thank you.
We'll be back in 15 minutes with our last speaker. We'll have some drinks and see you soon.